Now let me tell you something. A lot of women overthink men, and a lot of men don't even think that deep. That's the truth. Men are simple. If a man is confused, he disappears. If a man is unsure, he delays. But if a man is serious about you, he shows it, and sometimes he shows it in just 3 words. Let me tell you something about men that a lot of people don't want to admit. Men do not speak in long emotional speeches when they are serious. That's not how they're built. When a man truly cares, his words get shorter, clearer, and more intentional. See, men don't use language to explore feelings the way women do. Men use words to declare decisions. That's why simplicity matters so much when you're trying to understand his heart. A man who isn't serious will talk all day. He'll joke, flirt, tease, send random messages with no direction. He enjoys the attention, the energy, the validation. But none of that means commitment. Talking is easy. Typing is easy. Being entertaining costs a man nothing. But when a man becomes intentional, his communication changes. He stops talking to impress and starts speaking to reassure. He stops explaining himself and starts standing on what he says. That's why simple words carry so much weight with men. A man doesn't wake up and casually choose meaningful language. He chooses it because it reflects how he feels inside. Men don't decorate emotions. They compress them. They take a whole emotional experience and squeeze it into a few words that feel safe enough to say. That's why when a man is emotionally invested, he doesn't need many words. He needs the right ones. You see, men are very careful with emotional promises, even when they don't look like it. Every serious word a man speaks creates an expectation, and men understand expectations mean responsibility. And responsibility is not something a man takes lightly when it comes to relationships. So if he's saying something simple but strong, that means he's already accepted the weight behind it. He's already thought about what it implies. A man who isn't sure will keep things vague. He'll say things that sound nice, but don't commit him to anything. He'll keep you guessing because he's guessing too. But when a man is sure, his words lock in. They don't float, they land. You don't have to decode them. You don't have to ask your friends what he meant. You feel them because they're grounded in action. Men value efficiency. That's how they move through life. So when emotions become real, they don't multiply words, they reduce them. 1 sentence replaces 10, 3 words replace a paragraph, and those words become consistent. He doesn't just say them once, he lives them. You'll notice his tone changes, his timing changes, his presence becomes steady instead of random. This is why women sometimes miss the signs. They're listening for long explanations, emotional storytelling, poetic language. But men aren't wired that way. A man shows seriousness through clarity, through repetition, through alignment. His words match his behavior, and his behavior doesn't contradict what he says. When a man is serious, he's not trying to sound good. He's trying to be solid. He's not trying to impress you. He's trying to reassure you. And reassurance doesn't need decoration. It needs truth. That's why the simplest words from a man often carry the deepest meaning. Because behind those words is a decision, and men don't speak decisions lightly. Let me explain something very important about men and words, because this is where most women get confused. Men don't send meaningful words by accident. They don't stumble into emotional language. Every word that carries weight has already passed through his mind, his logic, and his sense of responsibility. When a man sends just a few words that feel strong, those words are backed by intention, not emotion alone. See, men are not emotional risk takers with language. A man understands that words create expectations. The moment he says something meaningful, he knows you're going to remember it. He knows you're going to hold him to it. And men don't like being held to things they're not ready to stand on. So when a man chooses words that signal priority or care, it means he has already accepted what comes with those words. That's why 3 simple words can say more than a long message ever could. A paragraph can be playful. A paragraph can be empty. A paragraph can be written in the moment. But short, intentional words are chosen carefully. They come from a place of certainty. Men don't reduce their words unless they're confident in what they feel. Uncertainty makes men talk more, explain more, joke more. Confidence makes them brief. A man who is not serious keeps his language flexible. He wants room to escape. He wants space to deny meaning later. He'll say things that sound affectionate but can be reinterpreted if needed. That's a man protecting his freedom. But when a man is serious, he doesn't need escape routes. He doesn't need backups. His words don't need clarification because they are clear from the start. Men also understand power. They know that words can shift a woman emotionally. So, if he's still sending you something small but strong, it means he's not playing with your emotions. He's being deliberate. He's choosing language that matches how deeply he's already invested. That's not flirting anymore. That's positioning. Another thing you have to understand is that men think in outcomes. When a man speaks, he's already thought about what happens next. If he wasn't ready for the next step, he wouldn't open his mouth at all. Silence is a man's favorite protection. So if he breaks that silence with meaningful words, it's because he wants movement forward, not sideways. This is why you should never ignore simple statements from a man. Women sometimes dismiss them because they don't sound romantic enough. But men don't lead with romance when they're serious. They lead with stability. They lead with reassurance. They lead with words that can be proven, not just felt. A man who sends intentional words is showing you that he's mentally present. He's not just reacting to you. He's thinking about you when you're not there. That's important. Men don't invest mental energy casually. If his words show thought, that means you've already crossed a line from interest into significance. And here's the key thing. When a man is serious, his words don't change depending on his mood. They stay consistent. He doesn't take them back. He doesn't dilute them later. He stands on them quietly. That consistency is how you know the words are real. Because men don't repeat what they don't mean, and they don't mean what they're not ready to live up to. Let me break this down in a way that makes sense. Because when a man is emotionally invested, it shows up in how he prioritizes you, not just how he talks to you. Men don't rearrange their world for someone they're not serious about. That's not how they're wired. A man can like you, desire you, enjoy you, and still keep you on the outside of his real life. But when a man is truly into you, his actions start lining up around you without you asking. Men live by structure. They have routines, habits, responsibilities, and mental schedules. And anything that matters to a man earns a place inside that structure. That's why priority is such a powerful indicator of real interest. If you matter to him, you don't have to compete with his free time. You don't have to beg for attention. He creates space naturally because what's important gets accommodated. A man who isn't serious will talk to you when it's convenient, when he's bored, when he wants validation, when he wants access. But his life stays untouched. His plans don't change. His time doesn't adjust. His availability is inconsistent. That's a man enjoying the moment, not building anything. And men know the difference, even if they don't say it out loud. When a man is serious, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. He starts thinking ahead with you in mind, not because you ask, but because it feels natural to him. He considers how his choices affect you. He checks in. He explains things without being prompted, not in a defensive way, but in a respectful one. That's a man who sees you as part of his reality, not just an option. Men don't do this lightly. Prioritizing a woman means sacrificing freedom, flexibility, and sometimes ego. And a man will not sacrifice those things unless the emotional return feels worth it. That return is peace, comfort, trust, a sense of partnership. When a man finds that, he protects it. This is why you can't just listen to what he says. You have to watch how he organizes his life around you. Does he show up when he says he will? Does he follow through without reminders? Does he make time even when he's tired? Those are not small things to a man. Those are deliberate choices. A man who is serious doesn't make you feel like an interruption. He makes you feel included. He doesn't treat time with you like a favor. He treats it like an investment. And investments are protected. They're consistent. They're intentional. Another thing women miss is that men express care through reliability more than romance. Flowers fade. Words can be repeated, but consistency takes effort. Consistency takes discipline. And men don't discipline themselves for something they don't value. If he's steady with you, that's not accidental. That's commitment forming. And here's the truth that matters most. When a man prioritizes you, you don't have to question your place. You don't have to decode silence. You don't have to wonder where you stand. His behavior answers those questions for you. Men may not always say what they feel, but they always act on what matters. So if a man is making space for you, choosing you repeatedly, and adjusting his world to include you, understand what you're seeing. That's not casual interest. That's a man showing you, in the clearest way he knows how, that you are important to him. Let me tell you something else about men that most people overlook. When a man is serious about a woman, he doesn't just invest emotionally, he invests mentally. And mental investment is a big deal for a man. That's where planning lives. That's where responsibility lives. That's where long-term thinking lives. A man does not mentally attach himself to a woman unless he sees something real there. Men are problem solvers by nature. Their minds are constantly working on what needs to be fixed, built, protected, or improved. So when a woman enters that mental space, it means she's no longer just someone he enjoys, she's someone he considers. And consideration is a sign of seriousness. That's when you'll notice he starts checking details. He remembers small things. He notices patterns. Not because he's trying to impress you, but because his mind has already placed you in a significant position. A man who isn't serious keeps things surface level. He enjoys the moment, but he doesn't think beyond it. He reacts instead of reflects. He responds instead of plans. His mind stays focused on himself. But when a man starts thinking about how his decisions affect you, that's a shift. That's not attraction anymore. That's attachment growing. You'll see it in how he communicates. He becomes clearer. He doesn't like misunderstandings. He doesn't like leaving things open-ended. Men who care about nothing don't care about confusion. But men who care about someone want stability, they want peace. So they become more intentional with how they speak and how they act. Mental investment also shows up in protection, not control, protection. A serious man thinks ahead about risks, boundaries, and outcomes. He wants to make sure you're okay. He wants to make sure situations don't put you in harm's way, emotionally or otherwise. That instinct doesn't come from jealousy. It comes from responsibility. And responsibility only shows up when a man feels connected. Another thing that happens when a man is mentally invested is patience. Men are not naturally patient in relationships unless they care deeply. If he's willing to slow down, explain himself, listen instead of shutting down, that's effort. And effort is not free for men. It costs them pride, comfort, and sometimes ego. So if he's doing it, it's because you matter. A man who is serious also starts thinking in terms of we instead of me, even if he doesn't say it out loud. His decisions quietly shift. He considers timing. He considers impact. He considers your feelings without you asking him to. That's not something a man does casually. That's something he does when he's emotionally locked in. And here's the part women really need to understand. When a man invests mentally, he becomes consistent. Not perfect, but consistent. He doesn't disappear when things get hard. He doesn't withdraw when emotions show up. He stays present because his mind has already committed to the connection. Men don't give mental space to temporary people. If he's thinking about you, planning with you in mind, adjusting his thinking because of you, that's not accidental. That's a man slowly but surely stepping into something serious, whether he's said the words yet or not. Let me say this clearly, because this is where a lot of women misunderstand men. When a man is serious, he doesn't need to be chased, reminded, or pushed. Serious men move on their own. Motivation doesn't come from pressure, it comes from purpose. And when a man feels purpose with a woman, his effort becomes natural, not forced. Men don't perform long-term effort for something they don't value. Short bursts, yes. Temporary attention, yes. But steady effort over time. That only happens when a man sees meaning. That's why effort is such a clear signal of seriousness. You can't fake consistency. You can't pretend to show up again and again without it draining you. And men won't drain themselves for something casual. A man who isn't serious will match energy only when it benefits him. He'll pull back when it requires sacrifice. He'll go quiet when it's inconvenient. His effort rises and falls depending on his mood. But a serious man understands that effort is not about convenience. It's about commitment. So he shows up even when it's uncomfortable, even when he's tired, even when life is heavy. Effort also shows up in how a man communicates. He doesn't leave you guessing. He doesn't disappear and reappear with excuses. He checks in, he follows up. He makes sure things are clear. Not because he's afraid of losing you, but because he respects you. And respect is a form of love for men. Another thing about effort is that it's proactive. A serious man doesn't wait for you to complain before he improves. He notices. He adjusts. He corrects himself. That level of self-awareness doesn't come from attraction. It comes from investment. He wants to be better because he wants to keep what he has. Men also express effort through protection of the connection. He avoids unnecessary drama. He avoids situations that could disrespect you. He's mindful of how his actions look, not because he's controlled, but because he cares about how you feel. That awareness is effort too. Emotional effort. A man who is serious also puts effort into growth. He thinks about his future differently. He wants to be more stable, more reliable, more prepared. And while he may not say it out loud, your presence influences that mindset. Men don't level up for casual relationships. They level up for something they want to last. And here's the important part. Effort from a serious man feels calm, not chaotic. It doesn't come with confusion. It doesn't come with mixed signals. It feels steady, predictable, secure. You don't have to wonder where you stand because his actions remind you consistently. Men don't make sustained effort unless their heart is involved. They may struggle to say everything they feel, but their effort speaks clearly. So when a man is showing up, following through, and choosing you without being pushed, understand what you're seeing. That's not interest. That's intention in motion. Let me tell you the part nobody likes to hear, but everybody needs to understand. When a man is truly interested, you don't have to chase him. You don't have to remind him you exist. You don't have to pull him closer with pressure. ultimatums, or emotional games. A man who is serious moves toward what he wants on his own. That's how men are wired. Pursuit is natural to a man when his heart is involved. Men chase clarity, not confusion. If a man knows what he wants, his actions become direct. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't stall. He doesn't keep you in emotional suspense. When a man is unsure, that's when you see distance, inconsistency, and excuses. But when a man is sure, effort becomes automatic. He reaches out. He checks in. He makes plans, not because you demanded it, but because it feels right to him. A man who needs to be chased is not ready. He might like you, but liking is not the same as choosing. Choosing requires intention, and intention creates movement. Men do not sit still when something matters to them. They move. They act. They engage. If you find yourself constantly initiating, constantly adjusting, constantly waiting, that's not romance, that's imbalance. See, men don't respond well to pressure when it comes to love. Pressure makes a man defensive. It makes him retreat, but genuine desire pulls him forward. When a man is emotionally connected, he doesn't feel chased. He feels drawn. He wants to be close. He wants to be involved. He wants to maintain the connection because it adds value to his life. This is why real interest feels easy. Not perfect, but easy. There's flow, there's responsiveness, there's mutual effort. You're not guessing whether he cares because his behavior answers that question daily. Men may not always verbalize their emotions, but they never hide what they prioritize. Time, attention, and consistency reveal everything. A man who is serious doesn't need reminders to do the right thing. He doesn't need threats to show up. He doesn't need competition to value you. Those tactics might get attention, but they don't get commitment. Commitment comes from internal decision, not external pressure. When a man is serious, he fears losing peace more than losing freedom. And if you bring peace into his life, he protects the connection instinctively. He won't risk it by being careless. He won't gamble it by being inconsistent. He won't jeopardize it by disappearing. Men guard what matters. This is where a lot of women get tired because they've been taught to work for love, to chase effort, to prove worth. But love doesn't require exhaustion. If you're constantly drained, constantly anxious, constantly questioning, something is off. A man who is truly into you reduces stress, not increases it. He simplifies your emotional world instead of complicating it. Men also don't like competition when they're serious. If he's making you compete for his attention, that means he hasn't chosen yet. A man who has chosen doesn't entertain distractions. He doesn't keep doors open. He closes them quietly because clarity brings him peace. And let me say this clearly. When you stop chasing, you create space for truth. Either he steps up or he steps out. Both answers protect you. Because a man who only responds when chased is not invested, he's entertained, and entertainment fades. Investment grows. A man who is serious will pursue connection even when it's inconvenient, even when life is busy, even when he's tired. Not perfectly, but consistently. That's the difference. Consistency reveals intention. Inconsistency reveals uncertainty. So if a man is reaching out without being pushed, staying present without being forced, and choosing you without being chased, understand what you're experiencing. That's a man whose interest is real, grounded, and intentional. And real interest doesn't need to be hunted down. It shows up on its own.